Your son's motorcycle is a public nuisance, and I'm calling the police right now. Attitude had been terrorizing our neighborhood for months. She thought she could bully anyone in this neighborhood. She made one fatal mistake. She targeted me. When those cops showed up ready to arrest my son, something happened that nobody saw coming. The officers took one look at my wife Susan, and their entire demeanor changed. What happened? This revenge story gets absolutely wild. Let me set the scene for you. We're talking about Maplewood Heights, one of those picture-perfect suburban neighborhoods, where every lawn is manicured to perfection, and every house looks like it came straight out of a home improvement magazine. The kind of place where people wave at each other during morning jogs, and kids still ride their bikes without helmets. At least that's what I thought when my family moved there 3 months ago. My name is Eric Thompson, and I'm your typical software engineer. Glasses slightly receding hairline, the kind of guy who gets excited about new programming languages. My wife Susan is, well, let's just say she's way cooler than I. She's got this calm, collected demeanor that makes you feel like she can handle any crisis without breaking a sweat. And then there's our son Jake, 17 years old, and absolutely obsessed with his motorcycle. A Gordon gun range application is denied. This is a quiet residential neighborhood. That's what my HOA chairwoman told me about my 150-year family ranch. She thought she could control what I do with my ancestral land. She had no idea who she was dealing with. You see, I'm a former Marine, and Marines don't give up easily. When the local authority shuts you down, you find a bigger authority. I made one phone call that changed everything. What happened next turned her dream of a quiet neighborhood into her absolute worst nightmare. Echo stories. Viewers, comment if you want to see how this revenge story unfolds. My name is Jack Riley, but everyone calls me Jax. I'm 45 years old, and I've been living on this ranch my entire life. This land has been in the Riley family since 1875, passed down through 5 generations who understood the value of hard work, personal freedom, and the right to use your own property as you see fit. The 200-acre spread sits in the heart of rural America, where neighbors respect each other's business and the government keeps its nose out of private affairs. At least, that's how it used to be before Elizabeth Vance moved in from the city.
Sue the other driver after a car accident. There's a better way to get paid a way bigger check without having to go to court.
From the city, Elizabeth, who everyone calls Ellie, is 55 years old and carries herself like a woman who's never been told no in her privileged life. She moved here from Manhattan 2 years ago, bought a spotless new house in the suburban development near my ranch, and immediately began her campaign to civilize what she saw as a backwards rural community. Within 6 months, she got herself elected chairwoman of the Meadowbrook Homeowners Association, and within a year, she turned a simple neighborhood organization into her personal kingdom, where she could impose her vision of suburban perfection. My dream was simple: convert part of my ancestral land into a shooting range where the community could practice marksmanship safely and legally. I'd done my homework, researched regulations, consulted safety experts, and prepared a comprehensive application that addressed every possible concern. The proposed range would be located on the back 40, well away from residential areas, with proper safety berms, sound barriers, and professional equipment. This wasn't some half-baked scheme. This was a carefully planned business venture that would serve the community while generating income from my family's land. The rejection letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered with bureaucratic coldness that made me understand why people hate dealing with government agencies. You're application has been denied," it read in Ellie's precise handwriting. "Community regulations prohibit activities that may disturb the peaceful nature of our residential area." There was no discussion of safety measures, no acknowledgement of legal research, and no consideration that my family had been using this land for hunting and target practice since before our great-grandparents were born. I stood on my front porch that morning, holding that letter and feeling the weight of 150 years of Riley family history pressing down on my shoulders. My great-great-grandfather had cleared this land with his bare hands, built the first cabin where my house now stands, and established the ranch that had supported 5 generations of my family. The idea that some city transplant with a clipboard could override generations of family heritage and property rights was more than insulting. It was un-American. That afternoon, I drove to Ellie's house to have what I hoped would be a reasonable conversation between neighbors. She answered the door wearing a business suit at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun that made her eyes look perpetually surprised. "Mrs. Vance," I said, keeping my voice respectful despite my frustration. "This is 150-year-old family land. I have the legal right to use it as I see fit." She looked at me with condescending patience and replied, "Regulations are regulations, Mr. Riley. Your land is not exempt from community standards." The conversation went downhill from there. Ellie made it clear that she viewed my shooting range proposal as a threat to her vision of suburban tranquility, and no amount of safety documentation or legal precedent would change her mind. She spoke about property values, noise concerns, and the need to maintain community character. But underneath all the bureaucratic language, I could hear what she was really saying. She was the person in charge now, and she wasn't going to let some rural gun enthusiast disrupt her carefully ordered world. That evening, I sat in my kitchen, staring at the rejection letter, and remembering something my grandfather had told me about fighting the right battles the right way. Sometimes, son, he said, the best way to win a war isn't to fight your enemy head-on, but to find a bigger fish to swim with. That's when I remembered the newspaper article I'd seen about federal agencies seeking rural training facilities. The FBI, specifically, was looking for locations that were isolated, secure, and free from local government interference. I picked up my phone and dialed the speaking.